Oh, Barry, there's your Christmas cake guy.
Yeah, he just said he was logging in.
Okay.
There's a business day and.
You good, Janet?
Yep.
Okay. Call this meeting to order at 6:02. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
All right, Pam Jansen,
Here.
Scott Gessner, absent. Mark Herrigs,
Here.
Preston Fivecoat,
Here.
Dwight Roth.
Here.
Okay, is there any other changes or additions to the agenda?
We had to add the financing on the bus through Santander.
Okay,
They want it in the minutes that you guys are all right with them financing it.
okay,
Yeah.
and that's, I haven't scrolled down on this. new
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah, and that was the only addition
Okay,
based on,
all right, anything else, gentlemen? Good, we have to vote on that probably, that being a change, so is there a motion?
Yep, I'll move, we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Properly moved and second, all in favor? 4-0, Janet.
Okay.
Excellent. Consent agenda, we had the minutes from January 12th, January 5th, and 26th. We had the enrollment report, the budget, or the monthly financial report, and then the bills and transportation report. We'll need a motion to accept that.
Yeah, maybe we accept the consent agenda.
There a second?
Second.
Properly moved second, all in favor? 4-0, Janet. For discussion, 5.1. Board goal update. The only thing I had on that was, the last meeting I gave you like 3 documents. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. I don't have any notes or anything from that, so. Without Scott here, do we want to just leave that discussion on the table till next meeting? Hope we have one less agenda item,
Yeah, makes sense.
okay? Unless you had anything else on the board list. Gonna be too fast through that. Committee reports, any committee reports? Preston
Education
Foundation.
Foundation hasn't met, flags installed and looks good. We're hoping it won't have volleyball now.
You volleyball that?
No, I say we're hoping the flag won't hit the volleyball.
Oh, it will, but I can stop, so
Okay.
I figured out a way to do it. Yeah, it will definitely come down to that, but no, it looks good.
Yeah, good. Mark, White, anything? Good? I know, Scott went to the ESD meeting, but he said there wasn't anything there to report. I did talk with Stacy, NLCS has their fundraiser coming up on the 14th. So get a table and support them, please. FFA is gonna be serving the meal and official dress. And some of the proceeds are gonna go to their soil judging team to travel. So that's pretty cool. So if we can all help out, even if you can't go, maybe kick in something for the NLCS soon, please. And then their next big thing is in April, they're gonna do the FFA banquet meal. So,
I think Taylor was talking to Stacy today and they're just about sold out tickets.
okay, yeah, good. All right, I think that's all we have for committee reports. District policy review, we had the 2 new policies second reading on BFG, BFCA. Those are pretty short, pretty straightforward policies. Is there Any discussion there, or I will entertain a motion to adopt second reading?
Yeah, I'll move that we adopt second reading of BFG and BFBA.
Second.
Preston second, all in favor? 4-0, Janet. First reading, we have three. With BG, BI, and then the BIAR. Those two were one pagers, so pretty straightforward. Are there any questions on those? I had one on the AR, Janet. It talked about the legislative conference from OSBA, but I looked on their website and they don't have such a thing anymore, maybe?
Well, once again, these policies haven't been reviewed since 2012,
Right,
so.
so I didn't know if that conference still existed, we might change the
Which one?
language on that.
Oh, the convention,
No,
Which
it's the
one?
legislative,
oh, the legislative
Conference.
conference, it's the COSA, it's combined with COSA. They still have that legislative conference
Yeah,
in February,
I know it.
Yeah.
okay,
they do still have that.
all right,
Yeah.
I'll look at it for the
Mhm.
second reading then, but. OSBA didn't have it on their website, so. Okay. We might just clean that one up so it's not so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can,
Maybe you put that annual conference, don't they call that one maybe?
well, that's down at the bottom,
And then,
Okay,
the convention,
so just maybe something about legislative update, maybe. is what we need
Yes.
in there, not
okay, let me,
conference,
let me put some notes,
Something like that.
yeah. Okay,
We just need first reading anyway, so.
yeah,
Yeah,
I move that we,
Right.
Accept BG, BI and BIAR first reading.
BGBIBIAR. Okay. Okay, moved in second, all in favor? B4-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Superintendent search update. I did have an email from, let's see if I can find it real quick. He just sent that to me.
Gosh.
But it didn't update from this phone. Well, I'll try to do my best on summarizing what you talked about. What's the text message? No, we need a little bit, so. Essentially, he's got the announcement out for California that we talked about. Idaho, Washington, of course, the Oregon channels. We'll have the slate of candidates at the next meeting, so the March meeting. Will be coming up. There was nothing else. He just had a couple other little just procedural things that you wanted to remind us on in terms of if we hear candidates, to make sure that they get forwarded to him and whatnot. And then we did receive a bill for, I think it was $9,400 and some change, 92.
that's the second bill,
Yeah, that's the second. So that's the second major installment plus the advertising costs that we incurred. So and I think that's all we have until that next board meeting. Then we should have a slate of candidates that they've gone through the selection process for. So and I think that's all I've heard. I know there's some candidates, but they don't like to talk numbers, so. With that, the draft superintendent contract was emailed out to everybody. That is the response back from the district attorneys, Elliott. And Mr. Elliott sent that to us. Not Mr. Elliott, but Elliott sent that to us with those changes that he recommended. nothing major I didn't see, it just cleaned up some legal language and, I didn't see anything major that, changed duration of contract lengths or those kind of things, so. I don't know if you all got a chance to look at that or not.
His plan's kind of exhaustive, yeah. I'm not a lawyer, so I,
Yeah,
that's his recommendation.
yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
pretty solid, so.
I sent it out with all his recommended markups and everything, so.
So I think we'll just clean that up and have that available, so when we get into negotiations, we can.
That's something to start with.
There might be changes, but at least we know legally we're solid on most of them, so. Okay. 5.5, the extra duty hires and resignation letter that we all got. Was there any discussion anybody had about that? 2 points came up to me, so I wanted to just have those on record. But
My only thought, I know it's almost the end of the season, you guys stepped in and are finishing the program till the end, we appreciate that. Do we have? Is there any legality there, because we didn't post the position because it's a rehiring, are we able to get away with that, or just? I know in the past, it's like things have to be posted and.
We're volunteering.
Oh, well, great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just to finish out the season. Interim coaches
Gotcha.
donate the salary back to the schools.
I mean, it made perfect sense to me. I think you guys are the best two people to go in and do the job. I just was
But
concerned
yeah,
about.
normally we'd have to probably.
Posting it would take 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and the season was only 4 more weeks.
Correct. Normally you would have to post it and then. Reapply for half. Do what so.
And they actually had a match that very day, so we needed to, like, in about 3 hours. Yeah,
Good.
but I appreciate you guys, these two guys taking it on and doing it for, not only doing it, but doing it for a volunteer, that's, special.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think
Yeah.
they're the best two people in the
I do
community
too.
to take on the program. I was just,
No.
Yeah, then once the season's over, we'll post it and then, see if we can get someone next year.
Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah, the only two things that came up, as questions to me, which I assumed, one was compensation, that you weren't being compensated on top of your contract. And so I just thought we should probably have that transparent. And then the second was the posting, and again, I was thinking kind of that same line that it's season's probably about over, so we appreciate you guys stepping up and doing that, so that's all we have on that, Jim.
Okay,
Anybody else have any comments? Nothing?
couple of the kids I know were excited to have you guys in.
Yeah, they
Don't
get-
learn, that's the other thing.
they get a beat up on their principals. Good.
Mostly Aaron, I get traveling to you. Yeah, you get to take it with me.
All right, new business, the ESD local service plan. I did talk to Scott, because of course he was part of that meeting, and he said there was nothing. That jumped out, that would be a problem with that plan at all, so that was kind of gonna be his reply. I
And we
think
have-
Cameron,
Lane on.
we have, and Cameron was there too, and Cameron can talk, but we do have Lane.
Okay,
Zoom
perfect.
to explain.
yeah, go ahead and put it Wayne on.
Lane, you there?
Yep, afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
We can't hear you. Interesting.
You did.
Let me make sure it's not on our end. Look,
Remote people can hear him, so at least I can hear
I'm
him.
pretty. Oh, let's see.
So you can hear me okay on the remote side?
Yes.
Uh, Volume's all the way up. Let me check the speaker.
Yes, Mike.
Want to read that guidance? So. Could be very strong. I don't know if that's.
Test, test.
I think it is. What you do. Well, normally we don't have trouble hearing mine.
Yeah.
I can hear
Can you,
guys
can you
just
hear
fine.
us, Lane?
Yeah, I totally hear you just fine.
It's like you're on mute, Lane. We can't hear you at all.
They can hear you guys just fine.
But
Okay,
there-
so he can hear us,
The remote
just
people
can't-
can hear me
but
just
we just
fine.
can't hear Lane.
Yes.
Do you want to maybe call Gail's phone?
on it.
Do what we.
Okay, Lane, I have you on speaker. We can hear you fine. I'm just gonna put you on the table in the middle of the room. So go ahead. We are ready to
Yeah,
discuss the local service plan. Anything you want to say? We had,
don't put it by that speaker, the feedback is gonna.
okay,
Yeah.
then I'll put it right here. So we have Cameron here. He was at the meeting. Scott Duffner, who was there, is not here tonight. So we do have one person present who was there, Lane.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I had a special ed meeting in a jail and an air meeting and a paid leave follow, and I couldn't call myself out 3 ways. The local service plan has been, kind of a draft vanilla version that's presented the other night, specifically because we don't know who our staff is going to be coming in August. We don't know what students we're going to need to be able to serve our programs. And also there's some funding pieces that are out there. But the plan just pretty much lays out the basic services that the ESD supports to all the districts. And then starting next month in March, we'll have superintendent-only meetings where we'll discuss what each school district specifically needs, start drafting up the MOUs that will be specific to the North Lake School District and all the other districts, and have those drafted MOUs done. I think our goal is to have them done in June and be able to present those to you in your August school board meeting, which will give a more detailed service outline for what you guys get. Specifically, we're going to look more at the accountability piece with the new legislation. Every school district has to do quarterly interim assessments, and we want to support all the school districts with that. Support continue with curriculum instruction and important. The special ed piece is probably one of the big pieces where we help with special ed testing, the support with our autism spectrum disorder kiddos, and our speech and language programs. And then on the administrative, just program sides, any training for levels and threats, school threats, suicide, the ODE relationships. We send you some flow through money. We'll continue to do that for your academic counselor. And we support any of those other behavioral needs. I think moving into next year, typical same amount of services, except with the change there, maybe helping more with the assessment piece with our new hire, Marty Colas. She's pretty savvy in that realm and supporting those programs district-wide. And I'm hoping that all 5 districts choose the same interim assessment so we can have some collaboration and some combined PD and save the district's money because we'll have an in-house specialist. I'm open to any questions on the service plan or what we went through. I guess we did have bits of mediation to talk about this process. We have revamped the ESD to better support the individual voice and collaboration from each school district as we put this process together, and that's outlined in the service plan also. So unless there's any regular questions, I'd be excited to just let you guys finish your meeting and I'll hop on to my next.
I didn't have any. The page.
Yeah.
Lane, do they need to approve it?
If you need to approve it, yes, please, or at least vote on it. You don't have to approve it. That would be that in the vote here.
Okay, or just vote on it, okay.
It does need to be in action.
Okay.
And I'm okay with it. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary or that we don't normally address at this time. So,
Yeah, the only other comment that Scott just said was there's no numbers, so that's why
right,
I didn't think it was a budget that would.
Yeah,
yeah.
Brought it up, so.
Yeah.
As percentages.
Just the plan, so is there a motion to accept the ESD
Except
local service plan?
I'll make a motion to accept the service plan. Second.
Second, all those in favor? We're out, Janet. Thank you. Thank you for being online.
You guys have a good evening. I'll try to come out this spring and be there in person.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you, Lane.
Yeah, have a good evening.
All right, bye-bye.
Great. Now, what everybody's excited about is that audit document. It was compelling.
Did you
Pretty good
guys,
reading. I had 2 pages that I had flagged, but I don't remember the one. They don't have it with me. But the only other question I had on it was, this is showing for 2024-25, correct?
yep, that's the audit.
And so the capital improvement project would have been the greenhouse that was on there for like 36 grand or something.
Could have been, I don't know, I'd have to. Look.
Because that was about the only thing I could think of, and unless there's some carryover from something, but
Couldn't tell you without looking down, I don't know.
perfect,
Mhm.
wonderful. Okay, is there anything, Monica?
No, just, you guys read the letter from them, there were no findings, the audit went well. They hardly had any questions for me, so. It
Must be because you had your paperwork, so.
was all.
So.
Ready to go, shipped off.
Good.
So, yeah.
They're pretty thorough.
Yeah,
So you like-
yeah, they were here for. Just 1 day or 2 days, I can't, 2 days, they were here for 2 days,
Mhm.
and then they do a lot of their stuff. You know, from far, I send them all kinds of stuff.
And then, we have to record when we submit our SIA, project markers, progress markers and budget, which I have to do here probably tomorrow, that we presented this audit to you. You have to vote on it, we just have to say that you're aware of it, you saw it and that, and then that's our final step. What Monica and I have to do together to submit that and say that. So. That's it.
Okay, any other questions? Get all those numbers down, that first part was really awesome.
Yeah, I don't do that part.
Thank goodness. Luckily, that was most of it, so you could just skim through that pretty fast. So, all right, good. Thank you, Monica, for pulling that off. 6.3 is to approve a supplemental budget, and I'm believing that's for Monica again.
Yes, and you guys can see this is just our grants. All I'm doing is turn them up to what we actually got. And so any overage or shortage is all getting moved into the 290 grant, which is our miscellaneous grant. So that the money's still in that fund. It's just, so our original budget is still the same. I'm just moving it so that each individual grant has what we actually got.
Let's
So-
earmark in the right
Yes,
account.
exactly. So that if someone asks me where are we at, I can pull it up really quickly.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Your motion to approve that budget?
Yeah, I move we approve the supplemental budget as presented. Second.
Properly moved and seconded, all in favor? 4-0, Janet.
Yeah, back up one, did you need us to accept the audit or anything like that?
No.
Just.
No.
Being presented.
Just read it.
Oh,
Yep.
good enough, yeah.
That's good, keep us on track. All right, the budget calendar or the budget committee. Look pretty similar from years past. We'll have to approve that unless there's any changes or questions. I kind of overlaid our superintendent search issues, and there's no real conflicts there, so that was the only thing I could think of that would be different. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll move we approve the 26-27 budget calendars.
Ed?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Oh, Janet. Excellent. Okay, we have that, the addition to the agenda, 6.5, which is approve the financing for the bus purchase that we approved last meeting. So we'll need to have a formal, motion on approving the financing.
Yeah, I move that we approve the financing for the scheduled bus purchase through Santander leasing. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor? 4-0. Okay. No, that's hesitation. or-
No, just not paying attention.
Good, good. All right, 7. Other action items, 7.1, certified resignation. You know, I don't think we accept those anymore because we like all of our people. So.
Can't retire, sorry.
So we have an action item there, so we'll have to approve that.
She said in there that she would still be on the sub list, so she'll be full time.
Yeah.
She's gonna be out of state law.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate Carrie's service to the school district. How many years, I forget? Was it
20,
1996,
30, maybe 30 at the end of this, at the end of this year.
Did her full sentence here.
her first assignment here was me, kindergarten.
Oh, good lord.
She survived that.
And she made it.
That's why she made it feel like thirty.
She came in for Nancy Horton halfway through the year when Nancy was pregnant with Mary.
Wow. God bless her for holding out that long. So is there an official motion?
Yeah, I move that we accept the resignation from Carrie Brown. Roughly. You know, word that's it.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 4-0. 7.2, Certive roof replacement repair proposal. We have a guest online. And I'm gonna turn that over to Barry. Basically, we had a couple questions at the last one about warranty and voiding warranty. And maybe y'all came up with some more questions, and that's why we have the expert here, so.
Let's see if we got the same mic issue though.
You can hear us, the question is, can you hear him?
Can you hear me
Yeah,
okay?
let's check it out.
We can't hear you, Chris.
You can't hear me.
Janet, what speaker do you have picked up?
I have that one. Let me, you know what, maybe, well, they can hear it. So they can hear us, so it's,
Is the volume of
I don't know.
That's always worked in the past.
Maybe it is off grid. Let's see. I mean, the volume's all the way up here.
Yeah.
Can
No.
you guys hear us?
Yeah, I don't know why let's see.
No.
Speakers, yeah, it's got the anchor system as a speaker, microphone, oh. No, that's not it.
The mic, he can hear us, so the mic's working.
Yeah,
Robin, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Roman.
you right now, Chris.
okay,
Oh.
there we go. It's on there. I think it's on there now. Try it.
1, 2, test 1, 2.
You got it, Chris. I'll hang up on you.
Do we have both
Button
of them,
B.
Janet?
Button B.
Huh?
You have both of them on?
Who?
Yes.
Both the guys?
Yeah, it will.
I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
Or off mute, that'll be fun.
Okay. So it's using this speaker
All right,
and
uh,
that mic.
I'll let you guys, some of your questions, just like you said, Dan. I believe it was, we were looking at like a proposed, bid or draft bid. Chris was looking at that kind of stuff for warranty, stuff like that. I hadn't heard back from him today, but I'm sure Chris will be able to answer if he found anything or was able to come up with anything. And if we get that later this week, I can have Janet send it out to you guys. And like you said, kind of the questions, one of the big questions was future HVAC installation, who's responsible? Is that gonna void a warranty? And any other questions you guys have, Chris and Roman are willing to answer.
Okay. So let's tackle that warranty question first, I guess.
So, Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So can you, the audio in the room is sometimes a little bit quiet. Can you rephrase the question about the warranty?
Yeah, and the initial proposal that we got from CERTA, I believe, did not have anything about a warranty, extended warranty, or not extended, the warranty for the new roof. And so that was one of the questions that the board had.
Yeah, so I can answer some of that. So as with any other roof system, you know, the warranty that you get with your new roof, really, there's a lot of options out there. Generally speaking, the way this was put together was to kind of, especially with asphalt shingles, you most of the warranties that you get are you know, prorated, so to speak. So every year that goes by, you know, the value of the shingle kind of depreciates, right? So at 20 years or 30 years, you practically, even if there were a warranty claim, you don't really get much many funds out of any warranty claim, right? So going with the new roof system, there's again different type of warranties. If you go with a really good manufacturer and a reputable applicator, and you write that, you know, in the specifications accordingly, in the technical specifications, you can actually qualify for what's called like a 20+30 warranty, where it's not just a you know, like a prorated warranty, but you have the first 20 years are non-prorated. So that's kind of mimics whatever you get on a low slope roof, more typical like that, right? So it's a $0 limit. If there's any issue, then the manufacturer comes in and fixes it. And then after the 20-year period is up, excuse me, it kind of goes into a prorated type of warranty. So overall 50-year warranty, 20+30. The way you get this is basically you need to have an applicator that is certified by any manufacturer to, you know, to be qualified to install the product in a high quality, and you also have to have like certain type of system components with it. So it's not just the shingle, right? You have like the shingles in the field, you have the starter shingles, you have the underlayment, you have the ridge vents, you have the ridge shingles and flashing details and all that. So as you get like more tighter warranties or extended warranties, those components get a little tighter. So that's all been kind of factored into this kind of initial scope.
And if I could, and I apologize, my headphones cut out when I switched to a phone call, so apologies. So real quick introduction. My name is Chris McKay. I'm with HMK Company, and then I have Roman here, who's an envelope consultant. And just so, if I can, just take a couple of steps back. So, you know, my role really is project manager to help structure this from a legal standpoint to make sure we follow statutes, help you guys with procurement, and then, you know, if we decide to move forward, help manage the design and construction. Roman, on the other hand, he is a specialist in roofs. He's probably the only or one of 10 people I've ever met that actually gets excited about talking about roofs and the various materials and how they work. So he's really the right guy from that perspective. In the proposal that I had sent a couple months ago, that is really for the design. Now, when you talk about warranty, that comes later. Once Roman completes sort of the specification, the drawing portion of the rebuild, as part of that, they put requirements on the application, as Roman just mentioned, who's an approved installer, what the warranty windows look like, et cetera. And then that all is part of the contract with the roofer. And as Roman outlined, there's a 20+30 roof where you can have an NDL, no dollar limit. And that's really the big value for you because unfortunately, typical warranties, they kind of diminish value as time goes on, right? So it's a curve that's moves in opposite direction of the life of the roof. So as the roof life goes on, it starts to deteriorate over time. The value of that roof also does. Whereas a no dollar limit, it actually maintains that value. So if at year, say 18, you've got a failure, they would come in and fix it and correct it. And that'd all be put in the specifications that would go out to bid. So whoever bid on the project was low bid, signed a contract, and they would be required to provide that warranty to you. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yep. No, that did. I think the other concern that came up at the last meeting was the HVAC systems and whatnot. We found that their current roof has a lot of damage from those being placed and serviced over the years. I guess, Dwight, this was kind of in your area in terms of concern. What should we be asking or concerned about with that? Because we do have a lot of pieces up on that roof.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start and I'll hand it over to Roman. So from my perspective, one of the key things, and this is why I included Roman in this conversation, is because oftentimes you hire an architect or somebody to design your roof. And they're certainly, that's in their skill set to do so, but they're not specialists when it comes to roofs. So if it's just a straight flat roof or a straight asphalt shingle roof on a 412 pitch, it's pretty simple to detail that. Where you really need a consultant who is specialized in roof is when you start to have a lot of penetrations. And this is why I think Roman and any envelope consultants is perfect for this discussion and consideration, because when you have units on top, you've got materials that need to be selected. You've got interacting chemicals where you could actually have issues. And then the insulation and how it penetrates that roof. So, a typical architect might design where kind of like what you have, where it's just bolted on. You've got a penetration, and you just cover it with some sort of sealant like a caulk or other materials. Roman, and I'll hand it off to you, Roman, to speak to, because I'm going to hit my depth on roofs very quickly. But what Roman would detail is a very specific type of booth system that mitigates that risk in a watershed. So Roman, I'll hand it off to you here.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I think you already hit on kind of the most important aspects, right? It's really, feel of the roof is pretty easy to get right. It's the penetration. Devil is in the details, right? So there's ways you can detail things with, you build in some redundancies, right? So if maybe your outer layer of sealant fails, right, you still have some like a backup type system that will kick in. So, making sure that you get that is pretty critical. As far as, if you have future mechanical work that needs to happen, and, you're concerned about the implications for warranty, which I'm very happy that you think about that, because it most certainly affects that. So it's always critical that when you do work at a later point in time to the roof, that you get well, first of all, you notify the manufacturer, right? That's kind of the most important thing, so that they know that there's work going on. It doesn't void the warranty, right? I mean, everybody knows that there's work that needs to happen over time. So get the manufacturer involved, and then also get a roofer involved, that ideally the one that originally installed the roof, but then also have somebody who can, or somebody who is certified by the manufacturer. And then that typically does not void any sort of warranty implications to that, if that answers the question. And the good news is the shingle roofs are actually fairly easy to tie into and like do reworks. So shouldn't be a large concern.
So Robin, real quick, when we look at their units, I don't know if you recall, but they've got these like metal brackets that are directly mounted into the roof structure. What would be your solution to sort of mitigate that, so you're not essentially drilling a hole in a perfectly good brand new roof?
Well, you can like put some sort of stanchion on there, and then roof around it, and tie in, use like liquid applied type of flashing details, and or storm collars to shed water and snow over it, right? There's a whole bunch of different ways how you can tackle that.
Yeah, so the current way that it's been addressed is essentially caulking over all of those fasteners. And the problem with that is Barry knows is every year or even 6 months with the weather you get in Silver Lake, you have to continually recalk it just because the weather will deteriorate it, right? With what Roman's talking about, it's a long-term solution. You do have some maintenance, but it's a better design where you're not constantly trying to cover all of the various penetrations.
Yes, exactly. Does that kind of sort of answer your questions?
I think so. That was the concern, was whether or not that warranty would be voided if we have work done. And so I think you answered that to some degree. I know Scott Duffner, our vice chair, who's not here tonight, had a question about some of that equipment that's mounted on the roof, if that wouldn't be more logical now with better technology to have that moved. Prior to that roof, and if that's limiting in terms of very expensive to do that, or if that would be an option to limit some of those penetrations that are up there.
If I need to look at those units again, I can't remember if it's a heat pump system or if they're rooftop gas packs. You know off the top of your head, Barry?
They're gas. They're
They are.
exhaust. Well, most of them are exhaust penetrations with like AC coolers on top.
Okay. I need to look at it again. I know you have quite a bit of attic space, but with those gas rooftop units, they need to be able to exhaust. I don't know if you can put those in an attic. Um, I just need to look at it again. It might take quite a bit of work just because there's limited amount of runs that you can do with refrigerant lines and the infrastructure. But I don't want to say no without taking another look at it from that perspective. Hopefully that's
Yeah.
okay. I just need to see it again. It's been since I think August since I've looked at or been on site.
Yeah, our thought was even if it cost a little extra to remove those from the roof, if it prevented issues down the road, it might be a worthwhile thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else, Jim? Good.
At what point do we, because the $1 million number that we have is just kind of an estimate so far, right? That's not been an actual bid proposal, right? That's just based on similar projects.
That's right. So I've what I did is when I first went out there last summer with Barry, I brought a roofer who would be a prospective bidder, and I had him take a look at it, just from a perspective of what's the damage, is this salvageable, what are your recommendations? And he said it should be re-roofed just because of the sort of long-term maintenance to keep it from leaking, and then the parts that are leaking in that valley, it makes more sense to replace. He gave me a number for what he would bid it that day. I used that and added a little bit of contingency to put your budget together again, because that was last year and I knew that would be going into this year. I then also talked to Roman and others in my office who are bidding projects. And I basically put a budget or forecast together based on all those numbers, but it was tested from a contractor who would be a prospective bidder.
And the number we got for potentially going steel, was that kind of similar process?
That was, although I didn't get a number from a contractor, I had to take it from recent projects that Roman and I have been part of.
Gotcha. That number was struck.
Yeah, that metal roof cost is substantial. The value of a metal roof is that it lasts, I say forever, but it lasts more than half of a lifetime. And it's just a great product, but it comes with that cost. I don't know if it was shared with you, sort of the long-term cost of replacing two composition roofs compared to the single cost upfront of a metal roof. But there's savings in doing a metal roof, but it's 2.5, 3 times the cost. I don't know if 20% savings is worth it over 50 years though.
Okay.
Maybe next time.
And one thing I'll add to this as well, like just on the shingle side as well, the technology has a little bit evolved over time. So they're now adding modifiers to the asphalt to I'm not trying to get too technical, but I think I should be hopefully pretty simple. They're adding modifiers to the asphalt to keep it a little bit softer throughout the year. So if you get like really cold temps in the winter, the asphalt stays a little bit softer. It doesn't become brittle so easy, so the granules don't fall off easily and then expose the asphalt, and that's kind of starts that whole deterioration cycle. So it's going to be pretty critical for you guys where you're at to get one of those like cold climate shingles.
Barry, anything?
maybe timeline, Chris, I know we very briefly talked about that, but. If we were to get going, are we on track for that end of August, September finish time or no?
You know, if I'll talk to the consultants, if we were to start design, I don't think we'd be able to bid until April on an accelerated time period, which isn't ideal. But when I start to think about what's the cost of bidding in non-favorable season, I know it's early in the year, being January, or February, but it's late in the year as far as bidding goes. And I think that the cost of bidding late in the bidding window is kind of offset by the cost of inflation going into next year. I'll confirm that for you tomorrow or the day after. One other alternative is, if that doesn't seem favorable, is make it a 27 project, but bid it in October of next year. That way you're getting 26 prices, if that makes sense, because the material prices will increase next calendar year. So if you can still bid it this calendar year, get those materials procured and ordered, then you can limit the exposure of inflation.
Gotcha.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, for answering those questions.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Good motion, more discussion. Move forward with the roof project or whatever your desire to be.
Yeah, I think it's something trying to move forward with. We gotta protect the building. Barry, do you have any concern if we did go with it? I mean, if we did go with a plan to bid it out and do it 27, that might allow us to rattle a little bit more money into our project fund.
Not if we're gonna procure the materials in this next year.
That's true.
I would think key is when they can think they can get the project done.
Yes.
I don't want to see them. I mean, school wise, it doesn't work in the fall, and
That's not,
practicality wise, it's
that's
not a
not
good.
what he was saying. He was saying bid it in the fall
Yeah.
to buy the materials and stuff to get the good pricing before the new year, but then it wouldn't happen until the fall of December.
Yeah, he wasn't sure he could get it done in time this year. I would rather wait that year than try to crowd this year.
And then you still got everything going on with school starting, especially with,
And if it doesn't
should you
feel,
go with the earlier start day? Is that what the teachers want? I don't know, it must have started in August.
Yeah, that's
Option B.
So that tightens up our timeline a little bit there as well. Couple weeks.
Yeah, and then if Chris, I think, was the one that mentioned that if he goes back in and thinks about some of those penetrations that maybe could be moved. I think that was what Scott's point was. If it only costs us maybe 100,000 to do that, but it's gonna save that roof life. That might delay it a little bit anyhow to really get a better plan. So I think one way or the other, we need to give them a yes or a no so they can get moving.
Right on HVAC in like 2 years.
Motion?
Yeah, I move that we approve moving forward with the roofing project.
well, that.
Is this the design or?
Yeah, so the design will be the next step.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're basically
Forward.
moving forward with CERTA. So something with CERTA probably.
All right, I move that we approve Barry to move forward with CERTA and HMK on the design of our and following project.
Good. Yeah, capture everything we need, Janet.
I think so.
There's a second.
Sorry.
All those in favor? 4-0, Janet. Thank you, Barry.
Thank
You've
you.
been going around in circles for us, and we appreciate it.
Hey, hopefully we'll have more information in March.
Great to have those questions answered though too.
Yeah, that was good to hear from these guys.
Okay, 7.3, school calendar approval. I had calendar A, calendar B, and then we forwarded that to the teachers to get their preference, and I believe Miss Nihas, or is it Nihas?
Yes.
Yes, that letter said that they would 14-0 approve B, or would recommend calendar B. So is there a motion to move the school calendar approval process forward?
I'm just my computer, big one you said.
The BB, it was the August start time, right, the earlier start time.
Honestly, it's- I just don't like the idea of starting both there. Yeah, I do meaning member.
Was that
Yeah,
calendar?
It's not ideal, but this comes up about every 6 or 7 years when the calendar just does not fall right.
I know, like, okay,
And I believe the staff's biggest concern was the Friday, not adding that Friday.
Yeah, not,
Work days.
I think there are 3 Fridays in either calendar, but they don't want to add Fridays to end early.
Right, so if we, went with a different option.
So we're starting August 24th, we go a full week, and then we go. No, one wrong.
No, staff starts August 24th.
We start the 31st.
Yeah, kids start the 31st. And then they get off Wednesday afternoon.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, half day Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday, so actually, that's fair weekend. We're still. That Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday.
That's what they want. Just to be more of an involvement there and stuff.
Well, I definitely appreciate getting out the earlier in June.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either way it's bad, but
Mhm.
there is that plus to it as well. But I think third week of June's really late.
That first week's gonna be kind of waste, that's. So the third week in June.
Yeah. You know,
With the low, and then it's the beginning of the end. Yeah.
Well, the first
Year end.
couple of days are going over syllabuses and expectations and all of that.
All right, I move that we accept the teacher's recommendation for calendar B.
Good,
I'll second that.
second him, all those in favor? 3, Janet, all those opposed? 1, Janet. Motion passes.
Who's the opposed?
Me.
Yeah. Me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are down to reports and information, so we will start with the Vice Principal AD report, Aaron.
Right.
Aaron, let me ask, did you want to talk, we skipped over this,
Yeah, we
did you want to talk about that, or do you want me to?
I can go
Okay.
ahead. So we did hire a head track coach. So it's gonna be Olivia. She's gonna take over the head. So Nathan Church will still be an assistant track coach. Then we also have one other assistant that we're trying to hire. Got one application right now. And then we also have a middle school position that's open. So, and I heard that there might be someone interested in that as well. So, so that's with the track, which is coming up real quick. Let's see, winter sports going well. We got a big game tomorrow for our girls. They could secure a league title with a win over RBA tomorrow. So they'll win it outright if they can get that win. So that'll be a big game tomorrow night. That's also senior night for the girls and the boys. Boys, nice to get their first win tonight. So that was good on Friday. wrestling, it's just a busy time of year for, wrestling. They've got districts, this weekend. That's down in Riddle. So the top 3 qualify for state, so that's gonna be going on Friday and Saturday, so we will know after this weekend of our boys, how many of them will advance to state.
Where will state wins?
It's up in Portland, and it'll be in 2 weeks, so 2 weeks from Thursday, I guess it would be. Yep. And that's Portland Memorial Coliseum. Yeah, let's see, middle school wrestling, middle school girls basketball going on right now. I think they got 1 more week left with middle school girls basketball. And wrestling just got a couple more weeks left as well. So hold on to spring sports. So everything's going well.
Good.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Sarah? Cameron?
All right, so January 29th, we had the K-6 RTI day. Spent most of the day looking at math and reading data, identifying trends, streamlining intervention processes, clearly defining staff responsibilities through that intervention process, and making sure it was documented. We collected all that, put it into a Google folder for that, so as staff come and go, it's there. Created some plan Bs if whoever's responsible for progress monitoring is absent that day. We've got a backup plan for those roles and responsibilities. So everybody felt pretty good about that. Ms. Brown, in 4th grade, they're starting the Oregon Trail play preparations. I was in there today as they were getting ready to learn some of the songs, and all the students seemed very excited, positive about putting on the performance, even the boys. As Dan mentioned earlier, FFA, they've got their district convention coming up and preparing for the regional convention and also the states or national soils. I think they finally opened registration for that, so we can start looking at actual itineraries and booking hotels and flights. They are working on the head of the baskets for their sale, and then also we'll have some of those up for graduation and banquet. Lots of things going on with the FFA. Middle school got another career connected field trip for them in March. This time they'll be visiting the apprenticeship training facility, electrical training facility in Pineville. So getting more into a specific trade. Also, same group, the High Desert ESD, will be coming out on March 17th to facilitate a Rubathon, and we will also be hosting Paisley on that. So the kids are given a task and a certain amount of items, and they have to make a Rube Goldberg type machine to complete said simple project. So they're in groups of 3 or 4 to complete that. So basically bring their middle school kids up. You guys had asked about evaluations. So just a quick overview on that. 20 staff that I evaluate. I have 7 completed at this point. 1 needs a final informal observation. 3 need an informal and a formal. I have 3 formals scheduled for this week, waiting on 3 other responses to schedule. 3 I'm behind on. I need to get caught up on those for various reasons, but I think I'm still on track to finish all of them by the end of March. You guys have some questions on discipline. Gail's got some other numbers, but just looking kind of overview. Our 2 biggest on this end, which are the majority, are tardies, and that's across the whole day, and then cell phones. But even that on cell phones, you've got about 20 that have had a one-time violation, and a couple of those have moved even. We had 9 that have had 2 violations, 6 that have had 3 or more. There's only 2 or 3 that have gone beyond the 3. Pretty much once parents are forced to come pick up the phone, they don't like it. So they start creating other arrangements so the phone, they don't have to come back and pick it up. So that's going pretty good. Kind of did before Christmas, just sent out an email to a handful of different administrators to just kind of see what they were dealing with, how their numbers were going, just as a comparison. Redmond, obviously quite a bit bigger from us. Tardies and lunch detentions are down 1,000 from that point last year. Cell phone policies is the same with ours. Overall referrals are up from last year. Lakeview, at that point, was December 8th was when I got most of the responses. Vaping, they've had 20 to 30 3-day suspensions for vaping. They spent over $11,000 on vaping detectors, so those apparently are working very good.
They're catching kids.
It's not all of them, apparently, or a lot of them. Classroom disrespect and insubordination at the middle school grades. They have about 40 tardies a day across all the periods. They were just starting their cell phone policy and it was already wrapping up. So I'll be curious how it's going now. Jefferson County Middle School, morning tardies was one of their big ones, and just absences. Class disruptions, behavior, not on task, disruptive, and that's 6 through 8 kids. Vaping a little bit, attendance was their big one. And they're in year 5 of off and away cell phone policy, so they don't see nearly as much on that. Being in year 5, Mapleton, obviously, so
That's probably similar to us.
Yeah.
They got the same background policy.
Yep. Attendance is down, tardies are up. Cell phone frequent bathroom breaks. With them hiding there and throwing their phone. And then behavioral issues due to lack of wraparound supports. And we see that a lot too, where kids need mental health, counseling. And, you know, state says leverage your partners. My response is Dollar General or Chevron. Yeah. So that's kind of where there's some specifics on that and kind of how we compare. So we're fairly comparable to, you know, several different districts of different size. Obviously, numbers sway a little bit due to size.
Did you say Redmond's tardiness was down 1,000% since they implemented cell phone
Yes.
policy?
But
That's compelling.
but overall referrals were still up.
Well,
We got
That's
something, I mean.
You're up 1,000. Yeah, up 1,000.
He's supposed to do. So,
we all found ways to get in trouble in school. We had-
Probably be,
well, I-
probably basically the bathrooms. That's what we.
any feedback from the teachers in terms of our discipline policy? Are they?
And overall, I think they like it. I mean, the biggest thing this year is they're able to directly input it to Alma. So they're, you know, instead of a quick, hey, we need to talk to so-and-so or sending so-and-so to either of our offices with not really understanding what happened. We're able to track it and instantly, as soon as they submit it, it sends us all an email that Johnny was tardy for the 12th time or whatever it is. So then we can go grab them.
Yeah, I've had this, I deal with almost the 7 to 12 down here, and I've had staff members come to me, they think it's going really well. So I usually, you know, when it comes across the home, as soon as they come, when it goes through, I'm getting a notification. So if it's a cell phone, boom, I'm going in there right then and taking it. If it's their second one or their third one. And so it's kind of, they like that, the teachers like that I'm coming in and immediately taking it or, you know, dealing with the issue. And it's not getting, you know, delayed for, you know, a few periods or a day or, I mean, things are happening a lot quicker and it's pretty smooth.
So
So
not getting the write-up till midday the next day when they get time. It's like,
I know that was one of the concerns, is whether or not the teachers had time to get that
Yeah,
information
yeah.
to you,
Yeah,
and
it's-
they wouldn't follow through.
yeah, but with
Things
Alma,
got
it's pretty
lost.
slick. They go on to add incident. It's a pretty simple little form, brief description of what it was. You can click, as soon as you start typing a kid's name, it pops them up. So then they just get a drop down menu, add. And then, you know, who's involved, and then it sends, then it gives us a little bit of a place to put a comment. So we can say, Johnny, sort of watch attention day tomorrow, you know, whatever the consequence is, so then they get that feedback. It's, you know. So I think as much as anything, that component is what's really
The
springing.
teachers like it, the kids don't like it,
Probably not.
then that's what we want.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good, very good. But
We just have to stay on it and be consistent.
Yeah.
Because I think what we're doing is working. But as long as they continue to rise up, we'll continue to build.
Yeah.
And that's on like from what Scott's doing like that.
keep those reminders and everybody's fresh on it.
No,
Yeah, well, lunchtime attention's in my room.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Good
a
conversation.
lot of kids coming in.
Get to know everybody a little bit, okay?
was that, were you done, Karen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna keep going on that. I'll do mine out of order, my report, because the other thing that you asked for was assessment. I'll give you guys this, I think I have that. Maybe I'll just let you pass those now down. And you know, we do this. Yes, for assessment information, and I have to be careful, well, we all do on all three of these topics, especially the discipline and academic progress, that we don't give any information that can be focused on a student. We have to make sure that the, what we call the N size, the group size is big enough that you can't figure out a staff member or a kid, because that's not allowed. You guys know that. So I went very 10,000 foot level on this and went through this was the most reliable data I could get on kind of short notice. Yeah. So, the STAR assessment, which is our Renaissance assessment, this is for grades. Actually, it's not K through 6, it's 1 through 6. You'll see that on the chart, as of today. And so the top chart gives you the STAR reading, the percent of students meeting the state benchmark. And this means that they have calibrated their results to the most difficult, the most rigorous standard that there is. These are like the worst numbers that you're gonna see. We calibrate it to district assessment. These would go up by about maybe half. But this, if we take the smarter balance, we want to know what we get on the smarter balance, so that's why we calibrate our test to that. It's more apples to apples. So these are grades 1 through 6. Laura's class just takes something different. She doesn't take this. And so in the fall, we did an assessment 3 times a year in reading and math, which are the 2 charts. We did fall and we have done winter now. And you can see that for reading in grades 1 through 6 in the fall, 41.7% were projected to pass the state benchmark. Now it's up to 52, so it possibly changed at 9.5%. And for math, we had in the fall, we got 32.6% projected to meet the state benchmark. And we do this benchmark testing in May. And then winter, we got 32.6, so we're up 7% in math. So I was pleased with that. And I did not figure in middle school or high school because there's kids are all scattered. I just didn't have time to gather them all up. We've got them here and there. These guys are all collected in those grade levels. So this was easy for you to see. But another time I collected it, I can give you more on the other grades. You'll see a broader report. But anyway, this gives you an idea of what we're doing. This is what we did on our RTI day, which we do every January that Cameron mentioned. The teachers and Cameron and I and Amy Fortune comes up and all the pepper goods. We have title person there, SPED people there, and we just all discuss what we're doing, how we're teaching. We do instructional practices, what we like, what we don't like, what results we're getting that we like and what we don't like, how we're going to make changes to improve scores, improve classroom experience, educational opportunities for kids, how we're going to meet their needs depending on what we're doing, our curriculum and any other interventions or strategies we want to employ. So we do that all the time. That we do it every PLC, did it again today. But that one day in January, we just dedicate to that and we talk about that all day long. So we just came off of that. So we have some really good ideas. We're headed the right direction. And today we just kind of keep tuning things up every day as we go, looking at our data all the time. Now these STAR assessments, we just do fall, winter, spring. But we also do progress monitoring either 1, 2, or 3 weeks, depending on how much extra help the kids are getting and how fast we want to check their progress. We do it quickly for those kids. I do want to tell you guys that next year, that you've heard me talk about that Senate Bill 141, the accountability one. Next year, the teachers and the administration are going to be required to report to you 4 times a year. This same kind of data. That's part of that accountability piece. It has to be reported to the board. Not much you can do about it other than know about it. And teachers obviously know about it and talk to them all the time about, we don't like those numbers, what are we gonna do? Oh, that's really working. Let's keep doing that. That seems to be a nice fit. So we have those conversations all the time. So just know that I can give you whatever you want this year, but next year it's gonna be a requirement. And they're still working on how to roll that out. They're still working on what assessments we can use. What we know so far is that the STAR assessment that we've been using for years is going to be one of the 4 approved on the list because it's one of the best. And it just so happens that Margie Colas, the gal that Lane mentioned that took Mark Louie's place, she used to train for Renaissance and STAR. So I'm gonna see if I can get her to come on February 20th and start giving us training on that. To help us learn how to use that tool better. It's an awesome tool, and we only know what we know, but there's so much there. You almost have to have somebody show you around, so we're gonna start on that process. Because we won't switch from this, we will continue to use this, and this is the assessment that Lane was saying earlier, he wants the whole county to use. So far, we all do except for one school, so.
How long have we been using STAR system?
As long as I've been here.
Yeah,
Pretty
or
close.
before even.
Maybe
Going back to see like a trend line of like how we're comparing to previous years and.
We did towards the beginning of the year, and a couple things we saw that were a trend is geometric reasoning and fractions are one that we see. And the geometric reasoning, probably the biggest reason is that's the last chapter in every textbook.
Yeah.
So what
It's
gets
just-
cut is that, so we've talked about trying to add some different components, whether it's beyond mastery or not, but just getting some exposure to some of those concepts sporadically through the year. And then if you get to it, obviously go on that. And another funky component with math is a lot of times they've got to read a paragraph
Mhm.
and then figure out it's more story type problems. So if you're a struggling reader,
You're not gonna do good with that.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting double whammy.
Yep.
And so it's, not necessarily,
Just teasing that stuff out.
yeah, if your comprehension level is low.
You might be good at that, but you're not gonna
Right.
score good. at that.
Yeah, you
Right.
can do a worksheet of problems just fine, but
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to find the ratio of whatever.
Most math in real life, there was a story. Much of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Then it's a really big study.
Well, another couple of things too is going back to what you said too. We also look at it like cohorts. First grade this year, second grade next, and do it that way because that's just comparing that group by and large. And also we can look at individual data too over the years because this thanks it for years so we can see how kids are going down.
What I thought was more like, okay, second grade is starting out at this point every year, and then all of a sudden you have a class that's starting out way below that. Can you correlate that to something that we need to change with the first grade program?
Maybe.
You can somewhat.
Different kids.
Different kids, you gotta look at different kids, yeah. And that's true, and Laura and Megan are standing there, they can talk this if you want to about how you compare groups and. 'cause
I was
they
just
know-
throwing out grades, by the way. I wasn't trying to.
No, but I'm not putting you on the spot, but you know how you have to compare, like each group coming in, like both of you have way different groups than what you had last year. Is kind of the point. And
Every year, the beginning of the year data or throughout the year can be completely different than the year before.
Mhm.
You feel like you're in a groove and you're never in a groove.
Yeah.
Everything changes based on the new class coming in.
And really, and that's what I was just gonna say too, it really just depends on what group Laura gets. And then we just have to track them from there, you can't really start in, she starts where kids are. And goes, and then wherever she finishes off, that's when Megan gets, and then she has to kind of go from there, so it's different here.
It's a problem curriculum evaluation. If you have different kids, you never know what the problem is.
Mhm.
Our grade, there's some small too, if you get,
Yeah.
high achieving kids that move out. Or a few that move in, either they aren't as high or whatever, those scores as a group have major deviations.
Right. Yeah,
Well, thank you guys for that because I
Yeah.
know I dropped that on you on
yeah,
Thursday or something, or I didn't mean to, but
yeah,
sometimes it's our mind things,
no, it's fine.
so.
Okay, and let's see, I just had a couple of things that I'll go really fast. I just wanted to try that way we were talking about that stuff. We did have the, funding, revenue forecast come out on February 4th, but the surprising news is that there wasn't a whole lot of information other than, they got good news at least. The general fund and lottery resources were up about 286.5 million from the December forecast, so at least it's going in a positive direction. And they say that now that leaves the hole for general fund at somewhere below 500 million, so they're better. That's better than in the 700 or 900 million range. The other good news that I was watching for in Monica too is that the corporate activity tax, which funds the Student Success Act programs, has increased by 17.9 million since December. And they have reserves for that as well, 100 million in reserve for 25-27. So they said the projected collections are still in the positive territory. They estimate them at around 80 million in reserve. So I watch that because that's where SIA money comes from, and that's the one I don't want to go away, because we've got people in there and people on our staff that we don't want to lose that's serving difficult positions for us. According to COSA, it said 3 key takeaways for superintendents. They said, well, today's news is about as good as we could have hoped for. We still have to be arguing and pushing to protect all K-12 programs for cuts or reductions. They don't want any reductions at all, and that includes FFA, anything. Somebody asked about FFA on one of my meetings, because that's more federal, and they said, they don't want any cuts to any program at all, period, and that's what their title, nothing, they don't want any at all, and that's what they're pushing for hard from COSA. Also said that they are advocating to use the Ed Stability Fund to close any K-12 budget holes, which they should. In my opinion, it can only be used for K-12 education, it's not for anything else. It's maxed out. They have $1.23 billion in that fund. They can't even add any more to it. To me, there's no reason why they don't bail us out with that, using that. That will be filled in a few years. So the hole that they're looking at now is a 500 million that's for the state general fund, not just for education, but for the whole state. So we're waiting to see about that. We don't know. But of course, they're worried about the loss of federal funds, like for SNAP and Medicaid and all of that. And I think that's one of the reasons why they were holding back, to see, thinking, well, this year's not bad enough, next year might be worse. That's what we're guessing. Don't know. So that's where we are with that. And I have a meeting about every Friday. That's one reason I didn't send you guys a budget updates. I had just been on a meeting Friday morning, and then that afternoon, they had meetings with the governor and everybody else. And I thought, well, maybe I'll get news, because they're still pushing to use these money for funds. It's still the funds to get at least education out of the hole. But I haven't heard anything since then. So I thought I might, but I haven't. So that's that. The only other thing I wanted to tell you is that I got the application for the summer learning grant, which is the grant that we switched over to last year. We have decided not to do that for a lot of reasons. The staff are kind of tired. After 5 years, they're ready to take a break and just not do it. And we're down to about 20 kids that routinely do it in the summer. And I think to fund all that, run all the buses, do all that for 20 kids. Yeah, it's great for those 20 kids, but our staff is tired and we don't have anybody else who wants to step in for them and do it instead.
Last summer we had 38 signed up, but we needed up.
Yeah,
that's
what happens. Yeah, that's what happens about every year. They start off with, the first couple of years we had about 38, 39, and they maintained that. But then the last couple, 2-3 years, it's been right about 20. And it's just a lot of work for a few kids, and I get that it's good for those kids, but these guys have been giving up 5 weeks of their summer every summer for 5 years now, and I just think that's probably enough. And they're all ready to take a break. Also, the reporting requirements are through the roof this time. We had to do them last year because of that switch. So we kind of know what they're asking for. It's more directed, more focused. They don't have as much freedom to choose what they want to teach and talk about and focus on. So and the other thing that's a little concerning me is it's for an 80-hour program, not a 100-hour program, which means less paid hours for these people, less paid hours for the bus drivers. And it's always hard for us to find bus drivers anyway, because a lot of them would rather go work on a farm and farm all summer. Then give up for 80 hours. So it was a push at 100. I'm afraid you know that was behind drivers. I don't know, yeah,
8 hours of farm rate, that's one big.
yeah. So that's another, yeah. That's another thing to consider. So all things considered, we just decided it was time to take a break. If at some point, because things are cyclical like that too, if at some point we decide that, or you guys decide, whoever is here, superintendent, teachers, whatever, decide they want to do it. Jubal's here too. He knows the transportation issues. If you want to decide and you're still funding it, well, then you can reply at that time. You can do that. But I think right now, and maybe that will help boost more interest if they realize that it's something that can go away and, oh, it's just not here all the time. Sometimes things get taken for granted and I understand that. Anyway, so that's that. So we are not going to apply for that. Just wanting you to know. So if anybody has anything about summer school, we're not gonna do it. Got through the rest of that. I think that's about all I had to report. That's it.
For that, any questions? Yes, Deb? Good to have some data. Thank you very much for that, and thank the 1 through 6 teachers for the positive changes in the STAR assessment.
Yeah, they're doing great.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Okay, number 9, executive session. We don't have one this meeting. Number 10, board communications, is calendar of events. We all have that. Is there any highlights to that calendar?
Potentially hosting some state playoff games.
Thinking that.
Until.
Well, the girls got to stay top 15. So I was 16, top 16, we're 15 right now.
Yeah. We got a couple big games coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, Cross Point. Our
I really need one for.
That UBC lost for us.
Okay. With that, our next meeting will be March 9th. And again, that will be a slate of candidates. That's all I know from the HCE guys.
So is that gonna be presented in like closed session, I think?
Yeah, the
Slate of
names
candidates,
will be,
yeah.
I don't know about, I'm sure there'll be some
So it'll be-
procedural things that'll be discussed outside of that.
So there'll need to be an executive session.
Yeah, we'll have to confirm that with Steve, because I know there's a point where they're
Yeah.
gonna make it. I don't think we're there yet. I wish I had my note. I apologize, but I'm sure it was in that.
Did we skip over public comment?
You did.
It wasn't on the thing, was it?
Yeah, well,
Oh, I
yeah.
missed it. I
Yeah,
apologize. So,
Yeah.
and this is probably a better time to have it anyhow, because now you have more questions. So, public comment this time. Thank you, Justin, for catching. Liam, good. Laura,
No, I'll just piggyback what Cameron said about, the math at the end of the year. We're building, curriculum maps so that we have an idea as to what we're teaching, when we're teaching, to, try to eliminate some of the stress maybe toward the end of the year with certain math modules or things like that. So we're looking at the whole year, planning it out to where if we need to double up another time throughout the day for math or reading, that we're doing that. Just to verify that we're covering everything and going from there.
excellent. Monica, anything? You got your new bus?
We're working on it.
Good, good. Board, anything else? To add? What's that?
Did you need to add any other agenda items? You mentioned that, and you said next meeting, March 9th.
If that, the only thing I had, I believe from my memory was, that would be the HCE stuff for the superintendent. I don't think there was any,
If there's anything else,
anything pending.
no,
So that's not a regular meeting like this then, or it is?
no, it's a
No, it's a
regular,
regular.
regular meeting.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, more than likely.
That'd be ideal.
Where people can leave, if it is a closed session, and I believe it is, but.
Okay.
Now, it's April, and then we have a follow-up on the ELA information. Wasn't there a survey or something to do with that ELA? That was the only thing that's sticking in my mind. That was-
Early literacy.
Yeah.
Here, it's only.
And that would have been April or May. We were supposed to revisit that.
Oh, it's the
I
early
thought-
literacy grant
Some
to revisit
results or
your
something.
plan that you have to present something at the learning fair.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's on my list. We have to create a, survey of some type to gather public input about the program, likes, dislikes. We do it every year for Title I, have since I've come here. But now we have to do it about early literacy.
And that's
too, I think.
April. So then-
Yeah,
May.
that's the,
Okay,
First week
whatever
in
night
May.
our learning fair is on. Yeah,
okay.
and I have that written down maybe on my calendar, determine we won't put it. as-
Sorry, just a random. Friday.
Oh, that's
It
okay.
is.
And the health policy, right? The
Yeah,
wellness
yes,
for the lunch.
Yes.
program.
yes. Mhm. The, kitchen thing,
Yes, kitchen.
wellness policy.
Wellness policy.
When we had the kitchen audit, yeah, was that review, that wellness
So
policy.
you guys get lots of surveys.
Yeah, wow.
We don't have any like negotiations this year. Those are all-
No, those are all,
Budget meetings, but
yeah, you're good on negotiation. I
Okay.
make sure you are.
I don't have anything else, so we're sitting at 7:28. Adjourn.
Okay, give it anyway, about some of the